His house is packed with junk, floor to ceiling. He's like a magpie. What's more, he cherishes all these things. He's a man who gives unwanted objects both a home and a job. They'll all be props or parts of props sometime. Unlike magpies, his choice of what to collect is based clearly enough on the notion that people, including himself, are ridiculous. There's something quite ridiculous to Lacey, for example, in the way in which we insist on having ourselves photographed.
And not only ridiculous, there's something pathetic about it too. There they all are, staring out into eternity to the strains of The Soldiers of the Queen. And there's certainly something ridiculous about the way we amuse ourselves. You've only got to step back about 40 years to see how idiotic the whole thing is. Remember Me. The singer was somebody called Mr. Tom Child, now entirely forgotten. The further you go back, the more absurd and pathetic it gets. I've got a cylinder of Lord Tennyson himself, reading The Charge of the Light Brigade. I also find people's wearing apparel ridiculous too. I see it all as fancy dress. A man puts on a fancy uniform and blows up his own importance and becomes the epitome of pomposity. Even without clothes, man is still not at a loss to appear ridiculous.
Mrs. Lacey is an accountant. She's also got the 6 children to contend with, not to mention the junk, which changes all the time. Things come and things go. What he particularly relishes are those forlorn objects which are too old-fashioned for use and not yet ancient enough for museums. And if you ask him how all this started, all this collecting and making things work, generally living in a kind of fancy dress world and at the same time laughing at it, what he says is that it's in the blood. He'll refer you to an important event which happened 38 years ago.
It all started the day my father met my mother at the Catford roller skating rink fancy dress ball. My mother was a head milliner, and she went as a Red Indian. My father was a house decorator, and he'd gone disguised as a dinner table set for two. It was love at first sight. They married, raised a family, and lived happily ever. Sometimes, if it was the wrong house, there wasn't always time for the comic song. My father used to take us to the Lewisham Hippodrome every Saturday night. And whenever a volunteer from the audience was called for, as quick as a flash, he'd be there. He was bound in chains, turned into a rabbit, and sawn in half. And some of the things that were done to him made us think we would never see him again. He never tired of doing this, and was, and still is, a frustrated performer. I followed in his footsteps, except that I got this passion for things. It was always props with me. I became a sort of prop myself. yard line, Electric Man. Well, and when did the pains begin?
And when did the pains begin?
From making moving figures out of who knows what, it's a small enough step to suggest that it's the actor, poor human, who breaks down, and the electric prop, which keeps going.
I'm going to feel ill. I'm going to collapse. Boom.
I'll now do an ad-lib. My impression of Sir Henry Irving in the soliloquy from Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is noble in the mind to suffer, to suffer.
I will now do an ad-lib. I'll sing a song. I'm forever blowing the bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air. They fly so high, nearly reach the sky. Then like my dreams, they fade and die. Fortune's always hiding. I've looked everywhere, for I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air.
Everybody loves a fireside, a picture sitting by a fireside in a cozy little home you can call your very own. There's a place called Sleepy Valley. Let's go down to Sleepy Valley. Angels pick this little spot where we built our little cot. Just a cozy nest, sweet and heaven blessed, like a bluebird's nest in Sleepy Valley. God is everywhere, happiness is there, love beyond the compare in Sleepy Valley. All of my troubles and cares of the day, like silver bubbles floating away. Roses round the door, baby.